All right, so in this episode of our podcast, Video on Demand podcast, we've got with us Sasha Zimanovic from Nextologies, the CEO of Nextologies. The reason Sasha's here is a very interesting story because I posted something on the internet, on Reddit, to test, which was a video that Robert recorded earlier in the couple of weeks ago. And it created quite a debate between me and Sasha, and we didn't know who each other were. So in the end, we decided to have a podcast about it, where I found out that suddenly Sasha is the CEO of Nextologies, and you're like, careful who you speak to on the internet, kids. You can end up like this. So what I thought was, I talked to our marketing department. They said, well, make Robert own his words. So we're also joined by Robert Nodge, who's the co-founder and lead developer of Nextedition. And Robert, congratulations, because you have been appointed to the steering committee of Node.js last week, which is a great achievement. Well done, you.
That is a good one. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through some of the things that came up in this argument, and then I'm going to step away and let you two scrap it out, so to speak. I'm sure it'll all be very lovely. So one of the first things that came up was legacy. So what is needed if you need to support the last 20 years of investment in hardware and software by a broadcaster? What do you need to do to support that? Shall we start that with you, Sasha, and just flesh that out? And Robert, you can return.
Yeah, I'd love to, and thanks guys for having me on this. This is cool. I'd love to do even more. You know, there's very few people in our industry who are open enough to think and talk and find each other on Reddit. But I think supporting the last 20 years is patience and education. That's the biggest call it pitfall that we have. You know, I don't know what phone you guys have, you know, what version of iPhone you have, but technology is changing so rapidly, you can't teach the next person how to use it before it's been outdated. So that debate that we had, that we sort of started on Reddit about, you know, forget about all legacy and just move forward. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But let's start up a school and teach people how to do it properly. Let's figure out how to get that transition, because you still have engineers who have a hard time understanding IP addressing still. Don't understand the difference and why they think they in their head internet is internet from 1999, where you remember how stable that was, right? So that's their perception. So it's always a problem with the internet, and oh, my ISP is always horrible. Whatever that might be, but that's that interconnection method. So, you know, it's about patience, education, teaching people to do it. And I somewhat agree and, you know, disagree. I say you can't forget about the past, but let's help the past get to the future.
And that's a good
point.
Robert? So yeah, I mean, there's bad legacy and there's good legacy. Bad legacy is, you know, you have 10, 20 different systems that just one person or two person know, and then you need to know how all of these different legacy systems talk together. It's hacks upon hacks upon hacks. So you kind of end up with a very brittle infrastructure. I know we had one client where they had basically two people that could produce their show, and they were working like octopuses, you know, pressing buttons from 6 different places, and you know, there were only 2 people, and if they were sick, nobody could do it. They couldn't even grab people from the outside. So I mean, when you're in that kind of bad legacy situation where, you know, there I would still argue it's a good idea to just start over. And we have done that at some places. But then, of course, there are places where things are actually working. You have a legacy playout system that is working, and people know how it works, etc. Then you should focus on the things that are not working, because replacing everything is not easy, and it's particularly a high risk operation. So it's always, you know, risk revenue. You have to balance those two. So just throwing out investment is, yeah.
Robert, I think we're aligned. I think we're saying the same thing. Yeah. It just, you know, our angle maybe didn't come across on Reddit the same way that we can openly agree on video and audio here. Yeah, I totally agree.
But I think we're coming to the same thing from different directions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
You're more in the slowly moving legacy, and you understand that you need to move. And I'm more from, you know, replace everything, but I understand it still has to be a slow transition.
Well, there's adaptation. I think the big thing is adaptation to something else, right? Yes. I think that's where maybe where you are absolutely correct is that dump it. If you got that octopus thing going on, stop. Now, like Arnold would say, now, right? Just stop it. You can't. You just go and do it, right? And now,
Yeah.
if you're going to go do it, are you going to go deploy HD SDI, 3G SDI? No, you're gonna. I'm gonna tell even again, and I think you guys we talked about it before we got started. Was I start. You said it perfectly. Where sort of you guys end. You got the production side of it, and then it's distribution and everything else down that path. And if I had to go and do it today, if I had to go and set up production today, I'm with you. I'm gonna do it in the new way. It's gonna be whatever that cloud, which can be done, but the people who manage that need to be taught.
Yep.
Because if something's gonna break, who's gonna fix it? Now, instead of being an octopus of two people of octopuses just pressing buttons here,
Yep.
now there's no 1-800 Amazon. Right now, I'm on record across multiple panels around the world about I'm all about cloud, but Amazon and Google and Microsoft are not the silver bullet that's going to save you. And that's part of that education that I'm telling you about.
That actually brings me on to my next question, which is that when we talk about public cloud providers, that I mean these big three, they're going to, in my opinion, they're starting to swallow everything up. And we had a very interesting discussion around these. Is everything going to go there? But actually, I really liked your answer to that. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Sure. And Robert, dive in, because I tend to be long in my answers. Dive in and cut me off. I don't take offense.
I'll raise my hand.
There you go. So look, AWS is a great service. I'm not knocking them. If you are in a traditional software development type of, hey, I need to scale my Uber Eats application in a real way, no one better than Microsoft, Google, and AWS today. You're not really going to be able to compete with them. But looking at video in the cloud, which I hear rumblings that Amazon may change their rates. I hard to believe, but I hear rumblings. The biggest problem you have with going video in the cloud, anything with any decent quality is exponentially expensive through any cloud-based service provider. So when you look at what Nextologies does, and yes, you guys end here and we take it from there type of statement. We really satisfy the need of whatever our clients need. And I'm not here to sell, but we are that. How many other, and maybe you guys can help me. Actually, I'm going to pose the question back over to you guys for a second. How many other companies, cloud-based service providers, that are going to give you that cloud service, dedicated fiber connectivity if you needed it, physical HD or 3G SDI handoffs, plus, unmetered inbound and outbound traffic? Do you guys know of anyone that does that?
No.
And this is the thing that a lot of
now you do.
Yeah.
Now you do. Right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Robert. Go. Yeah.
This is the problem I see a lot of with the hype around cloud broadcasting in the cloud. Is actually going back a little bit to making your point. You still have legacy workflows.
Yes.
So the material still needs to go to the cloud and come back from the cloud, and that's ridiculously expensive, especially with these, XDCAM large high quality formats we have today. So it just doesn't work.
Correct. Yeah, it just doesn't work yet. It may 10 years from now.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
But not today. SMPTE 2110, amazing. Let me see you. Let's go put that into AWS. Come on, let's go. Who's gonna do that? Yeah, $10,000 Arista switches.
We're still.
Come on. Not to pick on Arista, but you guys get my point, right? You need the network to support that.
And we're still in this world where the TV manufacturers are chasing this quality, 4K, 8K. The bit rates are still increasing, so the bandwidth and etc. is unable to keep up at the moment. So there is, you have to make a choice. Either you're going for these insane qualities, and then you need still on-premise or some kind of hybrid solution, or you just need to give up on the quality and latency as it is today in order to move it to cloud.
Which people are doing, giving up on that because it was either one, not possible, or too darn expensive to facilitate it. And then you got less and less of Adam and Roberts kicking around, right? You would think that the kids coming out of school understand some of the fundamentals of technology. But it's our fault. It's our collective fault here for making it so easy for them.
Yeah.
We made it so easy for them that the only thing that they know how to do to fix it, I love this, is reboot.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah,
see it
that's
today. The kids coming out of school, oh, we just reboot it. What? No, you have to fix the problem. Education, teach them what they need to do so that it's, yes, it's easy, but it's not easy. You know, going back to one of the statements in the previous question there was about patched together, you know, piece and piece and piece, hacked together. I think you, Robert, you said. And you know, the engineers of yesterday had to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Google wasn't as it was, but engineers of yesterday had to solve a problem. So they hacked it together and it worked. And you're right, scrap it and move on. In AWS or a cloud-based service provider, get that signal in, get that signal out. You still need a physical connection. Last I checked, which I'm not on that top tier list, but unless you're a top tier provider, you can't get a direct fiber connection into AWS. There's no way for me today. I want my own. I'm going to pay $10,000 a month, and I want a 10 gig to the network so I can just transverse that network. Nope, it's not going to happen.
And then there's the problem. In order to get these really high quality, high performance services, you usually have to buy a vendor specific solution, like Amazon have their, etc. Right? And
Yes.
yes, it works. It's great, and it's expensive, but it works. But what do you do when it doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, what do you do when it doesn't work? And then what you end up doing is, you know what? NDI and OBS are good enough for the rest of them. And that's what you end up happening, right? The technology solutions and the cloud providers have done nothing but bifurcate our market and increase the market size by 30%. So we had a market that was us broadcast guys. So what's happened now is the technologies guys barrel into there offering these cloud services. They split this up because some stuff can legitimately go into the cloud, but now open the door for more people. So it's done better for the industry. It's made the industry larger, but it's driven the price further down, and we haven't really gained any greater quality. And because of the lack of education, you have less people like us, the collective in the room, to solve the problem. Like I said before, there's no 1-800-Amazon, my video's not working. You got two servers. Well, just quick anecdote here. Two servers, two VMs sitting in the same node in the same region, hopefully, not that far away on rack from each other. Take something like IP transport stream or even NDI, which is, that's not my first choice, but even take NDI and try to get that from one VM to the other VM without having a problem, without getting errors. You're going to have problems. So now you introduce SRT or whatever solution to compensate for that. So the solution is good. It's great, but you need more people now than you've ever needed to satisfy that. And with a market that's declining in declining in production costs, you're competing with little Billy in his basement now. That's your competition. So sorry, I'm animated here. I'm passionate about this. I apologize.
But that's actually a good point you're getting to. We're going away from a business where we have these large actors that we can sell, a lot of equipment and high quality equipment, and we're moving to a lot of small, low quality producers.
Lower quality.
Lower.
Yeah.
No.
You're right. I'm agreeing. Yeah.
And we have to change our mindset in terms of business scalability.
Expectations of the business scalability. Exactly right. Yeah, you couldn't say that any more accurate. I agree with you.
Actually, I just want to have, where is the cloud actually useful? Because we have other, cloud providers, and you notice actually we had I don't want to mention names, but we had one company that was bragging about their cloud, and in the end, it turns out that they are selling servers that people have to install on site because they realize these problems that we've been talking about. So where is cloud actually useful? And I think, cloud is useful for scalability. You need processing power unexpectedly, scale out on Amazon. You need storage unexpectedly. Scale out on Amazon.
You're fixed models, like so. And I'll agree with you. I'll give you a support to that one. I can't mention names, but there's a big fight this weekend. If you're following along, so we're helping in the transmission path with some partners to handle that, and they're going to Amazon, right? They're going to take a RTMP feed, put it up in Amazon. They're reselling it themselves. And it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. And what I mean is this. Amazon has their rates for bandwidth on egress. That's what the rate is. So some kid who's not stupid figured out, okay, this is the fixed egress rate. We're going to sublease this event this weekend, license this event this weekend, and make that available through our website, meaning these guys, their website, and they're doing it all in AWS. So scalability, Robert perfectly said. Instant scalability, one-time event to do it in AWS, it makes sense. Anything that's full-time or repetitive, for the cost of 3 months of rental of a server in AWS, I could own it myself. So what did I do? I built a 50 rack data center. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, that kind of leads me to an interesting question, because what's the solution? Is the solution, I mean, I like you, in 10 years time, it definitely be all in the cloud for sure. Eventually it will go to that position, but as we say, you know, as a pragmatic.
Unless we're at 32K by then.
Well, probably will be more than the human eye can see, yeah. But when you get to a pragmatic response, like you're building a studio this year, right? And you want to start work, you know, do you go cloud? Do you go on-prem? Do you go hybrid? Or do you just say, forget the cloud and I'll just install? What's the actual pragmatic answer now to this issue?
All of the above. You must adapt and support all of it. And reason I make that statement is, if you're in the market, you're in the production market, and you're doing things, you cannot not provide it to them. It became, look, here's my example. Uber taxis became the go-to standard pretty much for everybody. Doing it in an app. Legacy taxi guys, what did they have to do? They had to do it in an app, right? They had to go and build their own apps. So why I say all of the above, if you're an entrepreneurial businessman and you're making money, or businesswoman making money with what service you're providing, the answer today is all of the above. 10 years from now, we'll see. Maybe Robert's right. We'll have 32K and we'll still have physical because the pipes aren't large enough to support it. That's my point, Robert. What do you think, Robert?
No, I agree. I mean, if you have to choose, choose something in the middle.
Right,
because in order to sell, you know, and you know, cloud has its pros and it has its cons, and on-premise has pros and cons, and hybrid has pros and cons. So it depends a lot on your use case. And a little bit like if we go back to the podcast that started this, you know, if you want to be in cloud, be in cloud if you need scalability and quality and latency is not high on your priority list. If you're you know, high quality and low latency and scalability, you know, is not that important, or elasticity actually is not that important, then, you know, go on premise. And, you know, if you need something in between, then you're looking at hybrid. So
and if we recommend, if this is your business and you're making money with it, how could you tell a customer, no, there's no on-prem? You want their money.
Yeah.
We once talked to a guy who said that my customer won't buy anything unless it's in the cloud. And I said, well, buy the office next door and drill a hole in the wall and tell them it's in the cloud. Anyway, I'm going to ask my last question now, because I'm aware we're kind of running to our half hour. But I've got to find something you two can disagree on. So let me try quality, okay? So there was a very well-known series recently on a well-known platform for video on demand, where they did a big season finale, shot it all in the dark, and when the compression had all kicked in, no one could see anything at all, because in my opinion, it was like, you know, if you're shooting, you have to shoot bearing in mind the delivery mechanism, right? And if you're going to deliver it on that, then you need to shoot for the compression that you're going to be finally delivered in, for instance. So the question is, how much quality is enough quality?
Ooh, who wants to go first?
Well, let me try going first.
Okay.
I think it depends a lot on the end viewer's expectations, right? So if I'm looking at a YouTube clip, you know, that somebody shoot, or, you know, a YouTuber, I don't think people expect extremely high quality there. So there I would say, it's the content that is the important, not the quality per se, and how much content. While if you're looking at Netflix, you're watching your favorite movie, Game of Thrones, then the end viewer actually expects it to be in high quality. And I think mostly, high quality video on demand. While, live stuff, I don't think people that have that high expectation on that, except for sports, because sports is always strange and special in what the viewers expect there.
Yeah,
Sasha?
Adam, you're looking for something that we're going to disagree on. There's not much I can disagree with my friend here. He's hitting it pretty darn close. I would add a couple extra things in there. Yep. Looking at full-time services, so we do the whole broadcast chain. We do IPTV deployments. We do apps. We built our own version of a Zoom clone. All of these different things that we've put out there. And I think a big part of it, the driving factor, is this, at least from my perspective. You need to understand the pipe that your content is traveling on.
Yep.
Because a majority of the time, the content is not even worth the value of that pipe that it's being transmitted on. Look at YouTube, look at the plethora, how many hours of content being uploaded to YouTube per minute? It's ridiculous. So the quality on that pipe, do I really need to have 10 meg H.264 minimum as my standard that I'm going to archive, right? Or what's my archive? My archive can be a low-res proxy. Do I need, I see it every day in the legacy world. So I think Robert's touching on those points there, but it really comes down to understanding what you're doing. If you're a content creator, you're making content, for the future use, you're going to use the highest storage quality content you can. You want to keep those high quality files, because you never know how you're going to want to color correct and all that other stuff downstream. But if you're an organization like us who take it where you guys stop, that stuff's going to be compressed down to crapola anyways. Have you seen cable and satellite operators? The biggest joke, I love this one. Customer says, no, it's got to be 25 megabit. It's got to be 25 megabit. And I'm scratching my head, 25 megabit. That's like even outside the realm of really what you need to do with H.264. Forget about the codec wars. That's a whole different podcast. The 20 meg, when the cable operator is just going to crap all over it anyways and chop it down to 10 because they don't have that capacity. Sure, garbage in, garbage out, but you have to understand what you're doing. You're going to pay for 25 megs capacity on satellite, or buy a temporary fiber line that's going to be 100. Like, what are you trying to achieve? And Robert said it perfectly. I'm just going in a little bit more depth. You need to understand the value. And us as engineers, content creators, content delivery companies, you got to understand and convey that information to your client and help educate them along the way. I'm touching that education hard. Gotta help educate. And I'm the first one that, if you haven't figured it out, love to talk. I'm more than willing to share, because I was that engineer who hacked it together, as Robert said. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And now Nextologies exists today because of that mentality. I encourage all of my fellow engineers. Here is a pen. Go build an airplane out of it, please. Go try to do it. That's engineering. Anyone can open up a catalog and order a product. Anyone can go buy a Haivision and do something over the internet. When that internet craps out and has a problem, what do? Lack of education. That's what is where I would lean all of this stuff to, stemming off the quality question. It's about that quality, understanding what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
actually, I think from our experience is a lot of times we have a broadcaster that they are, insisting a 200 megabit DNX HD in 10 bit, and it must be recorded in that. And when they play it up and it goes through everything, you're looking at a 720p 5 megabit stream, and they will never color correct it. They will, they don't need all of this quality, but they still insist on it because that's the traditional broadcasting mindset.
And that's where your statement, your post came from. That's where I agree. That has to change. Why? What's the root? Always, as engineers, we go to what's the root cause here? It's education, or Someone's been lazy, just didn't want to evolve. How many times I see that? So we're sorry, Adam. We couldn't disagree on this one.
Damn it.
Yeah, and you also get back to this. You can never get the blame if you choose IBM, right?
I struggle with that every
So-
day. I struggle
Yeah.
with that every single day. Why should we choose Nextologies instead of, I'm not going to name other companies, but instead of those guys?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do it the old way, go over there. If you want to be flexible, you come over here. I got tier 1 client, news agency client. You can search and find out. I'm not going to talk about it. Chose us. They deliver all the news around the world. They chose us. Why? Because we had a better software or a better appliance? No, because we're evolving with them. And I'm sure you guys see it. You guys see it absolutely because of what you have. Evolve with your customer, grow with your customer. That's the business. That's the future that we've turned into.
Amazing. Right, I'm going to
Well,
stop you both there.
Any other
Because we've done-
questions?
No, I'm all out of questions. Thank you very much, Sasha. Thank you very much, Robert. That was really, really great. Thanks so much. We should have you back again. I think I can see that happening.
Yeah, love to give you back
All right.
and give you guys a tour of the facility.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd love that. We're going to do that. We'll organize it. I'll mail you. All right. Thanks very much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, etc., etc. And we'll see you in another one.
Wherever the subscribe button is, subscribe. Get these guys.
I need to push a button for that.